Greco-Roman culture. It's a mix between Greek culture and Roman culture. Many roots of Western civilization can be traced to the blend of Greek and Roman culture, known as classical culture. This flourished during the Pax Romana that began with the Emperor Augustus and went all the way to 180 AD. If the Romans hired Hellenistic culture, admired Greek culture, Hellenistic culture is Greek culture, and borrowed widely from the Greeks. In the process, certain elements of Roman culture were changed. For example, the Roman sculpture became even more lifelike than the Greek. The Roman architecture more elaborate and more secular or non religious in function. In addition, the Romans made many contributions of their own, such as the outstanding legal system. A common set of laws and a common language served to unify the diverse peoples of the Roman Empire. In addition, both Roman law and Latin, the language of the Romans, had a great influence on the development of modern civilizations. Roman law. In modern day Italy, France, Spain, and Latin America, law codes based on Roman legal principles are still in use. Law in modern English speaking countries was also generally influenced by Roman law. In fact, along with the Latin language, the system of law devised by the Romans is probably their most lasting contribution. Written Roman law developed from law of the 12 tables, those written laws won by the plebeians so that they would know how they were being ruled. As Rome expanded, laws governing non citizens were added. The legal interpretations or decisions or of magistrates in the provinces were kept, and these served as precedents, which are examples, to help other judges decide similar court cases. They just said, well, what would they do before when they come across it in the future? It's a reference. Previous court decisions are a reference. Sometimes the existing laws of a conquered place influence the magistrate's decision. In this way, local rules and customs became a part of the larger body of Roman law. Roman laws became international, particularly the laws dealing with commerce. That's trade. When Augustus was emperor, professional law schools were established to teach the law. Later in the 6th century AD, Justinian, emperor of the Eastern Empire, had this huge body of laws codified, meaning that they were organized into a system that could more easily be used. Latin language. Latin is one of the Indo European languages, as are English, German, Slavic, Greek, Persian, and Sanskrit. The Romans did not develop writing until the 7th century BC, when they adopted the Greek style alphabet used by the Etruscans, which was based on the Phoenician alphabet. Latin was the official language of business, religion, education, government, and the arts throughout the empire. During the Roman years, two forms of Latin developed. One was literary Latin, the form used in writing. It was highly admired for its logic and exactness. The second form was the vernacular, or informal spoken language, used by everyday people in everyday circumstances. From this form of Latin developed the modern Romance languages, which include Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese, and Romanian. All of these languages are written in the Roman alphabet, as are English, German, Dutch, Polish, Czech, Hungarian, Finnish, Swedish, and Turkish. It has quite the legacy, this Latin language. Although English is a Germanic language, it includes thousands of words with Latin origin. Literary Latin was preserved through centuries after the end of the Western Roman Empire because it was the official language of the Roman Catholic Church, which outlived the empire. Many American high school students have continued to study Latin in the 20th century, particularly at Catholic schools. A network of roads knit together the Roman realm. They were built to help speed the movement of armies and military supply, but the roads were open to the public for travel and trade. Built of several layers of stone, the Roman roads were superior to any highways constructed in Europe until the late 1800s. Roman engineering skill was used throughout the empire in the construction of numerous dams, bridges, drainage systems, and aqueducts, which are bridge like structures that hold water pipes. They move water. In the early years, Romans had learned from the Etruscans how to build arched constructions called vaults. Little by little, the Romans improved vaults so that large interior spaces could be enclosed. They also invented domes to roof over huge structures. To make their structures solid and lasting, Roman architects used cement and concrete as basic materials. Exteriors were faced with marble or stucco, a plaster that sets with a hard stone like coat, and decorated with sculptures. The Romans preferred ornate decoration to the simplicity of earlier Greek architecture. Also, in contrast to the Greeks, whose greatest achievement architecturally were usually reserved to honor their gods, the Romans' finest buildings were used for judicial or other public functions that didn't have to do with religion, but had to do with the state. Roman public buildings were both magnificent and practical. The public baths were multi leveled structures that included steam rooms, bathing and swimming pools, gardens, gyms, and libraries. The Roman baths, which were like modern athletic clubs, served as popular meeting places. Entry to the baths was frequently paid for by political candidates seeking votes. The Roman Colosseum, a huge amphitheater, was a main feature of a special welfare system used by the Roman politicians to keep plebeians happy and control the people. This welfare system, known as bread and circuses, provided free grain, the bread, and free entertainment, the circuses. The Colosseum, where much of the free entertainment took place, was the scene of mock naval battles and bloody gladiator fights, in which war prisoners and condemned criminals fought fiercely to the death for the amusement of the crowd. At the Circus Maximus, a stadium in Rome, thrilling chariot races were held. The Romans are justly famous for city planning. Provincial cities and towns were usually built around a forum, a public square that would be close to the crossing of two main roads. The main civic buildings in the marketplace were centrally located in the forum area, and building codes were enforced to keep architectural styles uniform and safe. The logical planning in the provinces was in strong contrast to the capital city of the empire. Rome had narrow, winding streets, a poor drainage system, and was overcrowded. In the 2nd century AD, the city's population of more than 1 million persons was jammed into 9 square miles. Augustus claimed that he had found Rome brick and had left it marble. He means he improved the city. However, the splendid public buildings were often flanked by dark and flimsy tenement houses. During the lifetime of the empire, Rome was a sprawling, bustling city of both magnificence and squalor. Throughout the history of Rome, Greek literature remained the most important influence on Latin literary work. An educated Roman was expected to know Greek. Wealthy families often owned Greek slaves who served as tutors for the children of the household. With Greek models to imitate, the Romans developed a literature of the first rank. Although it was the Greek genius to speculate brilliantly about destiny in the universe, the Romans had a gift for describing less abstract ideas, using literature to point out important ethical concepts of right and wrong. Further, just as the Greeks are noted for their philosophical original thinking, the Romans are known for being practical and adapting ideas of others. So you could say the Romans weren't big thinkers, but they were big doers. The wealth and leisure resulting from Roman conquest provided a growing audience for literature. From about 100 BC to 1480, Latin literature was at its height. This period has been called the Golden Age of Latin literature. One of the leading writers of the Golden Age was the master statesman and polished orator, Cicero. Cicero's speeches, letters, essays showed a wide ranging intellect and noble character. The respect he commanded as spokesman for the Senate made Mark Antony jealous, and in 43 BC, Antony had Cicero put to death. Another famous statesman, Julius Caesar, also contributed to Latin literature. His military history, commentaries on the Gallic War, is famous for its careful descriptions and vigorous style. Caesar's contribution to literature also served the political purpose of keeping the name of the ambitious generals in the public eye. Later, in 47 BC, Caesar gained lasting fame with a brief but meaningful message sent to the Roman Senate after a victory in battle. Since then, the message containing only the words Veni Vidi Vici, meaning I came, I saw, I conquered, has been studied by generations of American students. The greatest poet of the Golden Age was Virgil. He has been called the Homer of Rome because the Iliad and the Odyssey served as models for his epic, the Aeneid. The chief character in Virgil's work was Aeneas, who was a legendary Trojan hero who overcame many obstacles before founding the city of Rome. The most outstanding aspect of the Aeneid is Virgil's patriotism. The glories of Rome are praised in poetry, such as in the following excerpt. Others, doubtless, with mold lifelike bronze with greater delicacy, will win from marble the look of life, will plead cases better, chart the motions of the sky with the rod, and foretell the risings of the stars. You, O Roman, remember to rule the nations with might. This will be your genius, to impose the way of peace, to spare the conquered, and crush the proud. Another patriotic writer was Livy, whose history of Rome was called From the Founding of the City. By picturing the past greatness of Rome in glowing terms, he hoped to convince his readers to return to the simple ways of their ancestors. The Roman historian Tacitus is best known for Germanica, his study of the German tribes who lived north of the imperial frontiers. Like Livy, Tacitus urged a return to traditional Roman value. His work contrasts the strength and simplicity of the Germans with the weakness and morality of upper class life in Rome. Another important writer was the Greek biographer Plutarch. His masterpiece Parallel Lives, appeared 46 biographies of Greek and Roman statesmen, orators, or warriors, whose careers and talents were similar. Plutarch did not flatter the Greeks at the expense of the Romans. His accounts were well balanced and his judgments of character sound. His descriptions of people and events are so colorful that parallel lives proved to be an invaluable source for later writers. The famous English playwright William Shakespeare drew heavily on Plutarch's biographies when writing Julius Caesar and Antony and Cleopatra, two of Shakespeare's plays. How's that for a long lasting effect? Latin literature directly affected English literature. During Roman times, most of the noted men of science were Greeks. The center for research and experimentation was Alexandria in Egypt. One famous Greek scholar was the astronomer Ptolemy. Between 127 AD and 151 AD, he brought together in one book all that was then known about astronomy. For 1,500 years, Ptolemy's views were generally accepted by educated people and were widely taught. Unlike the Greek scientist Aristarchus Aristarchus before him, who believed that the earth revolved around the sun, Ptolemy believed that the sun revolved around the earth, and this is what they taught in Rome. Also a map maker, Ptolemy was the first to draw the earth as round. Although Greek astronomers had known that it was round since the 3rd century BC, in his map, Ptolemy exaggerated the size of Asia. This exaggeration later led the explorer Christopher Columbus to believe the Atlantic Ocean was smaller than it is, and to set sail from Spain to search for Asia. The Greek physician Galen, who lived in the 2nd century AD, also studied in Alexandria. Next to Hippocrates, the famous Greek who encouraged the study of medicine and disease, Galen was the most famous doctor of ancient times. He discovered that arteries contain blood, not air, he, as had been previously believed. Although the Romans themselves made few contributions to scientific knowledge, they were skillful in applying Greek findings in medicine and public health. The Romans built the first hospitals about 14 AD. The first school of medicine was begun in Rome. It was born It was there that Celsus, a well-known Roman-born physician, wrote and taught. One of his books describes surgical procedures for removing tonsils and cataracts. That's eye surgery. So, in what ways have Roman law and language continued after the empire? Give two examples of Roman engineering. I like the dome roofs. What was the greatest influence of Roman culture? We have a lot of science, astronomy, medicine, literature, language, architecture, law. What's it going to be? What do you think? What were two great scientific discoveries made by Greeks during Roman times? So, what did Ptolemy discover? What was it?